Hey everybody, Bergman of E-ville Geckos here. Today we're going to be talking about your tank setups. It's been a while since I've set up a tank. I keep all my leopard geckos in racks, but today is for making a video especially for everybody who keeps their leopard geckos in tanks. Now this is just how I would do things, how actually I used to do things when I did keep leopard geckos in tanks back when I first started out. So we're going to hop right into this with talking about your temperature and your heating. So obviously you want your 90-degree hot side, your 80-degree cool side into, you know, the 70s maybe, upper 70s, and you want to heat it with what I would recommend is some sort of under tank heater or heat tape or something like that. This heating pad works fine. This is just a Zoom Ed heating pad, and basically what you want to do is, I want to really stress this to everybody, is if you plug these things in, they are a fire hazard. Any heat tape's a fire hazard, anything's a fire hazard that emits heat. You want to plug it into some sort of thermostat. Now with these, you don't need anything like super fancy or expensive, just get something that will kind of regulate the temperature a little bit. Even if it's not by much, at least it helps. So you want to stick this sticky side up so it sticks to the bottom of your tank. Now this tank is actually a 5-gallon tank, and the heat pad is not very sticky anymore, but you get the point. So this is a 5-gallon tank. I'd recommend putting at least only one adult leopard gecko in here, and it could live out the rest of its life in here, but of course 10 gallons preferable. This is just my display cage that I bring around to shows and stuff like that, educational events, yada yada yada. So next we want to hop into what your substrate should be. I wouldn't recommend a loose substrate like cocoa fiber, sand, whatever else you may want to use. Pine shavings, I wouldn't do that. You want to stick with something that's not going to be ingested at all. Now some people have some issues with reptile carpet. I never did when I had leopard geckos on it, but you can also use tile. There's this new sand mat thing that's really cool. It's basically just, it's not like sand, it's not loose sand or anything. It's just kind of like reptile carpet, except it's just glued on sand and little rocks and stuff like that. And it looks really nice, and it gives it that more naturalistic feel than just this green reptile carpet. So you want to put that in there like this. You want to press it down a little bit so your gecko doesn't get under there and underneath into that heat pad and possibly maybe burn himself. So that's what you got there. And most of the stuff you'll see me showing you today is going to be a lot like how I do racks. So if you don't catch something, just look at my rack video. The only thing that's different is how I heat, what I put down for a substrate, and yeah, that's basically it. So now we're going to talk about food bowls and water bowls. This is our food bowl, this is our water bowl. If you watched my how I set up my tubs for my rack systems, you know that I use basically the same thing for both. This is just a tea light holder. Just put a little water in there, and you can clean it out easily, and they're 2 for $1, so you can get them in bulk basically. And I just want to put that down there on my cool side, along with these are disposable mealworm dishes. They have this nice little ring. Doesn't allow the mealworms to get out by crawling out. So you got that. I think they're like 25 to 26 cents a piece. You can get them at TSK or Bean Farm, and there's a few other places. But that's that. Next off, you want your humid hide, obviously. Now, if you're trying to breed leopard geckos, you want to put eco earth in here, something like that. I also recommend getting a bigger hide than this, but this is set up for just one leopard gecko in here. So we got a little paper towel here. You want to keep that wet and moist at all times. And you got your lid. And that's that. And you just have your humid hide here. Put it on your hot side so it makes condensation that the leopard geckos can lap up, and it helps them shed too. And then you have your screen lid lastly, but I'm also going to talk about decorations and stuff like that for all of you who are wondering about decorations, live plants, etc. So you really don't need a screen lid because leopard geckos aren't going to be able to crawl out of something that's like this smooth. They don't have the little sticky pads or whatever. As long as you don't have decorations that they can climb out of the tank from, you're fine. Or if you're feeding crickets, you definitely want to have a screen lid for feeding crickets, because crickets are nasty little things, and you don't want to have that one chirping in the middle of the night when you're trying to go to sleep. Now, lastly, I want to talk about I'm going to talk about decorations. I also want to talk about lighting. For lighting, if you want to observe your leopard gecko and you want to see it more active, do a very, like, I used to use like a little blue bulb with like very low wattage, and I would just turn that on, because honestly these bright lights that a lot of people have on their leopard gecko tanks are not only unneeded, but also make them stay inside their hides longer. So one thing I always like to share with people that are buying leopard geckos as pets from me is to not have a bright light on them, maybe even put them in a darker place, because they really don't like coming out to bright light, especially albinos. Albinos are a lot more sensitive, I've found, and you'll never see them. They'll always just be in their human hide until you turn that light off, and then they'll be active when you're asleep or not, not there to enjoy them. So, all right, now since I've covered that and gave you guys a little tip, now I'm going to talk about decorations. Some people ask me like what live plants are okay. I'm not really very well versed in live plants at all. I mean, leopard geckos don't eat plants, but at the same time, one thing you might want to consider is, especially if your setup is a little bit more closed off, is how much extra humidity they're putting out there. I mean, leopard geckos don't need a whole lot of humidity. It's nice to spray them down and keep them, give them good condensation and everything, but you don't want like copious amounts of humidity coming off. Another thing is you might want to check to see if there's like any pesticides or anything, or if your feeders are going to eat on them, eat on the plants, and then they get that pesticide in, and then your leopard gecko ingests it. That could be bad. Personally, I don't like doing live plants with any reptile unless they're like some sort of a boreal creature or something like that that needs that extra humidity, because honestly it's just more work you have to put into things. For decorations though, some rocks, some cool rocks. If you bleach out driftwood, I used to use that a lot, that can also look cool, but just make sure that you also let it sit out for a few days and rinse it a lot too, because you don't want that bleach being in the wood, and when that wood gets wet by, say, you just spraying on it or whatever, you don't want any bleach getting in your gecko system. Other things that would be cool, there is that cool little, it's like a little hide, but it's like a magnet on both sides, so you can put it onto your leopard gecko's onto the tank, and it just clips on, and then if you ever want to look at your leopard gecko, you just peel that rock off and you can look in. It's really cool. I never had one, but I always wanted one. They're kind of expensive. Another thing you might want to stay away from is things with really small spaces. You don't really want something that's like a tiny space where your leopard gecko gets stuck in and you're not going to be able to get them out. But as far as that goes, that's pretty much covers tank setups. If you have anything, any questions, sound off in the comments below, and I try to respond to every comment I get. I don't get many, obviously, but so sound off in the comments below. And link to my business page will be in the description. E-ville Geckos, obviously. And you all have a good day. I hope you enjoyed the video.